Welcome back. After years of confusion, fear, and multiple preventable deaths of Texas mothers, the Texas Medical Board now has a training telling doctors when they can perform abortions under the state's abortion ban. Cassandra Jaramillo with ProPublica is joining us to talk more about this new guidance. Cassandra, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us.
Thanks for having me, Ashley.
So I want to talk about this because this guidance comes after, right, lawmakers met this past session and decided that they were going to let doctors use their medical judgment. We're now hearing from the Texas Medical Board on this. Talk to us about the new guidance.
Yes, so when lawmakers met last and they passed Senate Bill 31, one provision of that law was that the Texas Medical Board had to put together an education. And so this marks the first, actually, in the country, out of states that have severely restricted or banned abortion, that lawmakers have compelled its state regulator to put together a training to help physicians navigate what this law means exactly.
And so when we think about that, you know, the training, I'm trying to pick my words wisely here because it is a training and it is something that they pass and something that we heard was so needed and a step lawmakers on both sides of the aisle said in the right direction to stop mothers from dying. But there are cases that may not fit into this ideal box of the training, right?
Definitely. We spoke to half a dozen of medical experts and legal experts who reviewed the training that the medical board put together, and they came down with one key takeaway. These are some of the most straightforward scenarios that doctors, now almost 5 years, right, since the state banned abortion, have seen. Now, perhaps the experts who reviewed it said that this will help different specialty physicians feel more confident about intervening. But one of the things that was notably missing in this training from the Texas Medical Board is this question of how to care for women with chronic conditions. At ProPublica, we recently reported the case of a woman in San Antonio who had uncontrolled diabetes and high blood pressure. And you know, there's question of timing that I think a lot of doctors will still wonder, at what point is the risk a risk enough to then not have this fear of the severe penalties, as you mentioned, that still do linger for physicians under this law.
Yeah, one of the things that was so striking about that story that you guys had, I mean, she was passing out. She had all of these complications. And we talk about the risk to doctors. It's a big risk for them, right?
It is. Texas has one of the most strict abortion bans. It does not allow for abortion in the case of rape, incest, and fatal fetal anomalies, which the other thing that the training misses is the scenario that was in the news a lot a few years ago with Kate Cox. For example, her fetus was diagnosed with a fatal fetal anomaly, and her doctor felt that the risk of making this woman go through a third C-section to carry this pregnancy to term had risk to her life. But in that case, we saw that the Texas Attorney General overruled the doctor's medical judgment. Now, I couldn't get straight answers about what would happen if a scenario like that would come up, because unfortunately, it likely will, where a woman will have to make this very difficult decision of how much risk are they willing to continue in the case where they get diagnosed, a tragic diagnosis in their pregnancy.
And I mean, doctors could spend the rest of their lives in prison. Doctors could lose their licenses. A lot of harsh penalties for them as well. You know, what do you feel is the overall takeaway after having reported on this, having seen the training? Is this helpful, at least to some degree, for doctors?
One thing that is also that's come out recently is a legal training that we had experts review. And I even reviewed it myself. And one thing that is interesting after talking to experts is that they have noted that after Senate Bill 31 passed, it does up the burden of proof that a prosecutor would have to have in order to accuse a physician of performing an illegal abortion. And so what does that mean exactly? They would have to prove that the physician had the intent to to terminate this pregnancy, strictly like in an elective abortion case, they would have to prove other circumstances that, for example, no doctor in that same similar scenario would advise to terminate a pregnancy. So this is a key distinction now under Senate Bill 31. Now, how that changes behaviors is something that we're going to continue to watch and report on, though.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, and hopefully interesting and not having any more mothers lose their lives right here in Texas.
Absolutely.
All right, that is reporter Cassandra Jaramillo. Thank you so much for taking some time out to talk with us.
Thank you.